Mayday, mayday, mayday,
There he
mayday,
is.
mayday.
Good morning, Mr. TK.
Icebergs on the port side.
Oh no, we're going to crash. What was that all about?
Well, I don't know, but I figured it out.
Are we heading towards the iceberg, TK?
Oh,
Have
what
my
type of?
worst fears come true?
Oh my gosh, this is one of those double entendres, isn't it?
It,
Dum
it
dum
turned into it
dum.
turned into one, just like last week's train.
Yeah,
We're good at
I
this.
think, I think the Titanic, right? I think Toronto. Maybe we should rename it to Titanic. Maybe Canada, we should rename it to Leonardo DiCaprio.
Oh, wouldn't it be the other way around? Wouldn't Canada be the Titanic and Toronto be Leonardo DiCaprio, which would make Vancouver, I suppose, whatever that
Rose.
girl's name was. Okay, yeah.
Rose.
We have a wonderful guest here today, and she is waiting patiently in the waiting
Oh,
room.
I'm
But
so excited.
I am so excited. I think everybody that knows her will be excited or knows of her. She is a
I feel
spirit.
more people know her than know us.
I think that you're right, and that is
Yeah.
true. And
Yeah.
and I mean, they should. She's actually doing good on the planet. And we're just,
Useful.
sitting
She's
here.
useful.
Yeah,
She's providing value.
she is providing value. She is very, very useful. But talk about providing value, TK.
Mm-hmm.
The people are here. They want to know what the hell is going on in this real estate market. Like it, people are saying it's slowing down and the Titanic is making a U-turn right now. People are saying that it is just fine. And this is right where we like it. It's on the way to somewhere that's going to be beautiful and it's going to stay there. TK,
Mm-hmm.
it's Sunday and you're in a t-shirt. Is this a
Yep.
leading indicator?
I got no appointments today with clients. I just have errands to run. One's a sold sign. One's a check in on a vacant house, and two of them are check in on vacant houses.
I wonder if we plotted the episodes that you wear a t-shirt versus like your work gear, if there's a correlation to what the market is doing.
The market conditions. I single-handedly am the litmus test of the Toronto real estate market. The Canadian real estate market. We're the Canadian real estate show. The whole market depends on which shirt I'm wearing.
You're like Wyerton Willie of real estate.
I'm exactly that, right? And right now my shadow is really non-existent because of the big bright ring light in front of me.
So what's going on out there? Are we seeing a slowdown? Are things different?
I think that because of March break, there was definitely, there was less activity on certain listings. There was also less listings coming out than I think will come out next week, right? So people are on March break. There's people who have kids. A lot of people who are buying houses have children. They're at home. They don't really have the time to be able to, go out and look at housing and stuff like that too. If you're thinking about selling, you're worried because in years past, everyone used to travel. This year, not a lot of people are traveling, right? So in years past, this is what people did. So people were concerned and said, I don't want to go on the market during March break because it might hurt me. So I feel that a lot of people are waiting until next week to put their properties up on the market. And
get closer to your mic.
The market still was very active this week. I mean, and the percentage of buyers, like I got this one listing in Roncesvalles where the percentage of buyers who are coming in are very serious, right? Like they're like a good chunk, like a good chunk of the people who've actually shown the property have second showings, are calling me, asking me questions.
Second showings, what's going on? Okay, hold on.
Yeah, because you offer a date, you want to come and look at the place twice, right? So
can we rewind to December when it was the market was blazing and everyone was like, this is a great time during Christmas to like put in offers because maybe nobody else will be active in the market. And now what I'm hearing is like, You know, it's March break. Things are a little slower. Everybody's kind of chill. I don't know.
You know, I can only tell you what I know, Daryl.
Sounds
right?
like
I can't tell you what I don't
to me,
know.
TK. Sounds like you're spinning something up.
I can tell you what I know. Percentage of buyers out there that are serious is higher than I've ever seen.
Serious buyers higher than
I've
ever seen or
that
seen
higher than I've
while?
ever seen right now. Yeah.
All right.
That's what it is. The people who are out there they mean business. They want to buy. They have serious intentions about buying. Not investors. Not tire kickers. Not people just going out and looking to find out what their home is worth based on the sales in the area. They're serious buyers who have got intent to move.
So are there people that are like, this is our chance? Like, let's go.
Yes,
we've been waiting for this.
And they want to do the move that they weren't able to do in January, that they weren't able to do last year because of different reasons. And the truth is, Daryl, as long as you are buying and selling in the same market, who cares what the market's doing?
Well, as rates are going up, I mean, it does affect what you can afford right now. And like everything's
okay. But if you sell, and buyers who are buying your house are affected by the rates,
sell and they drop out of the deal because all of a sudden,
you better put your house on the market as soon as you buy.
As soon as you buy, yeah. So strategies are a changing, winds are a shifting. I can feel it, TK.
I think I
can see through.
We're talking about Titanic today. The tides are shifting, and the waves are getting higher.
Can you hear that? Can you hear that wind shifting? Okay, let's get our guest in here because she has been waiting patiently for a while.
What's her name on Twitter again?
Twitter. She is the Justice Queen.
Okay.
No. Here she comes. Urban Zen Girl. / Justice Queen in the house.
I think.
Are you there?
Shaista is.
I'm sorry. I didn't realize I have to start my video.
That's okay.
Welcome. Shaista, this is
TK does that every week too. Yes. Welcome. Finally.
You say my name perfectly.
Shaista.
Great. I read your email.
Both of you.
Yes.
That's right.
But we're at
your 50-50
pseudonyms. Your pseudonyms, Urban Zen Girl on YouTube and Justice Queen on Twitter. You are the most popular person we have ever met on the show.
No.
You are out there.
Yes, everybody loves you.
Absolutely.
Oh, thank you.
You are fighting for people's rights, and you are quite articulate, I must say.
Thank you.
I'll tell you, I mean, I know me and TK appreciate you so much. I don't know if you watched the very first episode, but we feel like you've been around since the very beginning. And you have helped us grow with your wonderful comments. And we want to tell you that we really appreciate you. And
even the times where we were feeling like no one's listening, no one cares, they're just commenting and they're watching 3 minutes. But then you would comment like details on the whole show, and we're like, oh, someone really was paying attention to the whole show. And that goes a long way. When you're starting out a channel, it's hard to stay motivated and feel like you're doing something good. And
I really enjoy your show. And I actually do. Like, I watch the whole thing. That's why whenever you guys say nobody watches till the end or something, or you're not sure how many people are still watching, but I always watch. Like, you're one of the few channels that I actually watch. The entire video.
We're the longest one.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We're the longest
one. We're the longest one.
Yeah.
But it's amazing. And I mean, listen, some of the things that you tweet about and you talk about, I mean, I imagine for a lot of people, these are issues that are very close to home. Right. There's so many. And I mean, you're very organized. So you sent us out a list of items to talk about.
Typical Urban Zen Girl.
Absolutely. I think, at least to start, I mean, you put it on the list, and I think it's a great topic. We see people are now fighting these new laneway suites or garden suites, where we finally get a policy that kind of makes some sense and will add that. I mean, everybody knows that I don't really like the policy, but it definitely adds housing to the mix, and it's easy and it's quick. And of course, all these NIMBYs are fighting it. So why don't you speak to that for a little bit?
Yeah, so I find the garden suite one interesting because I don't think garden suites are going to, solve our housing crisis. Like, I don't think that a whole bunch of people are going to start building garden suites all over Toronto and everyone's going to have that, like how people think it's going to be. So I think it's such a small thing to actually add. And the strange thing is that the opposition towards it is so loud. Like, I feel it's a loud minority. I feel like if you look at the city surveys and stuff like that, like most people actually would be supportive of garden suites. Most people are supportive of laneway suites, but it's this loud minority that's like, no, we don't want it. But the sad part of it is if they're going to have an opposition to that and be able to appeal that, imagine any other change that could happen that they will appeal. Like, that just goes to show how much power the loud minority has. So that's like, I feel like more of the disturbing part of it. Like, no wonder they kind of oppose every other thing that could happen in terms of development. And I also feel like for garden suites, like it's the way that they oppose things, right? Because they're like, oh, you know what, these developers are going to come and they, like, I read one article and they were calling it an eco genocide, like not genocide, but they called it an ecocide, as if the developers are going to come and kill all the trees. And that's what they actually were making videos about in Barrie, because the Barrie Residents Association over there was like, oh my God, Toronto, you guys can't be allowing these garden suites over there. So they invited all of these resident associations. And I don't know if you watched the video, but Fontra is a big resident association. And that guy invited Barrie to do a whole presentation about how this one garden suite disturbed one tree, and that they weren't sure if that person had all the permission to disturb that tree. And then all of like Toronto's associations, like there was one, I think it's Yorkville, that was like, we shouldn't even be included in this garden suite thing. Like, why are they even including us? Like, we don't need garden suites. So we should be declared heritage status. So we don't even get these garden suites in our neighborhood. So it's like a lot of drama, but it's almost like this fear mongering and this idea that developers actually want to come in because they want to add all these garden suites to rent out. But it's sort of like, how many people actually have like in terms of like buying investment properties in Toronto and stuff like that? Like, it's not really cash flow positive right now. I don't see a lot of people going and buying $2 million homes to put a garden suite out, to rent it out. But right. But then I do see a garden suite helping a lot of families. I think that, with aging in place, and we know that most people want to age in place. Like, most people do not want to go into a long-term care home or a retirement home. And most people, like after COVID especially, are not going to want to do that. And contrary to people thinking that, as people age, they move somewhere or something, like everyone thinks that they go to a facility. It's only a minority of people that actually ever leave their home. Most people in Canada age in place. Less than 10% ever go anywhere else. So if you had that opportunity, your parents or whatever could live in the garden suite, you could live in the house. That opens up an opportunity, right? Or like, with this whole work from home thing, people could have an office there. There's so many opportunities for what a person could do with a garden suite. And the other thing that I find strange about Toronto is that, and I'm from Alberta originally, so I have a lot of stuff to say about Toronto and the problems that people have over here in terms of.
We welcome those. We're the Canadian real estate show. So we don't play favorites.
Yeah. So like Alberta is actually a very conservative province. Like, everybody knows that. Edmonton started having garden suites in 2019. And they've increased building garden suites. Garden suites are absolutely welcome over there. They've done so much awareness about garden suites. They've accepted garden suites. They ended single family home zoning in 2019. So they have all of these forward thinking things. They get all kinds of architectural awards for buildings and stuff like that. And then you have Toronto, which is, I'm just calling them a loud minority.
Are they short housing out there though?
They're not short housing.
But is it because of the policy, or is it because not that many people want to live there, or both?
Well, I don't think that many people want to live there, but I think what they're thinking is that we're going to grow and we need to be forward thinking. We need to think about this stuff. We need to think about the environment. We need to think about sprawl ahead of time, right?
Exactly, because transit and all that kind of stuff, it actually puts strain on the infrastructure in the future, right? Where you start having to build things further and further out, it actually creates more costs down the road.
Right. So like, it's better to think about that ahead of time because they know they're going to grow, right? Like they are going to grow as time passes. More people will, choose it as a place to go to. But I just find it interesting because Toronto is predominantly like a lot of liberal voters in Toronto, and they're very progressive, but they're against this idea that will actually help a lot of families. And I'm not saying it's going to change the world. Like, you know what I mean? It's not going to. It's like laneway
No.
suites. It's like how many people went and built laneway suites? They're beautiful. They're really nice. They're a good opportunity for some people, but they're just getting scared for no reason. But it just shows how much power they have.
Right. And I'm glad that you went right back to that because like you said the loud minority. I mean, this is not even a minority. Like this is like 8 people, right? This is like maybe 100 people that actually care out of, I don't even know how many people. And I would hazard to guess that some of them are not even part of the community that they're fighting for. Right.
Right.
So you have like, you have these community meetings and there's no positive reinforcement from anybody in the community that like, yes, we're totally cool with this thing going here. They are absolutely silent. And you have, 40 people come and say, who knows what, and they're not even from around here. And then those people have the voice because the opposition is completely silent. Right. So you're kind of on the inside and you're an activist for this. Like, why do we give them such a loud voice when, I mean, we all know I'm no genius. Everybody knows there's only a handful of these people that care. Why are they so strong?
So I think that they're like, I actually believe that they've always been strong. And I think that if we look back at history and we look at, and I talk about this a little bit sometimes on my Twitter feed, because I find it interesting, is restrictive covenants. And that we do have a history of that in Toronto. We have a history of that in Ontario. We have a history of that in North America, where we would say that there's certain people that can't live in this neighborhood. And it was open. People would put up signs saying that Jewish people cannot live in this neighborhood. There was court cases over this. There was a woman, it was in Lake Huron area. She wanted to sell one of her properties to a Jewish man. They went to court over this, and the Superior Court actually said no, because he's Jewish, he cannot buy that property. And a lot of the Jewish websites in Canada that talk about anti-Semitism, like they have this in their history and stuff like that. So it's all documented. Like people can still look up those restrictive covenants. And then eventually the premier of Ontario said, no, this has no place in Ontario. It was probably, I think, I can't remember what year that was in, where the premier came and said, you can't do that anymore. So I do feel that it's interesting because even back then, it was neighborhood, like neighbors, that said, we don't want these people in our neighborhood. I do feel like we don't have anything directly like that today. It's not like people go around saying you can't live here because you're this background or you're this religion. But I do think in many ways we do block people out, because if we're going to say, you know what, yellow belt for sure, for example, in Toronto, only like 60%, 62% of the land there is only for single family detached homes. So by saying we're not going to build any other kind of home there, you are saying that other people are not welcome, because, you know, say a person
it's income-based discrimination.
It is. It's like socioeconomic discrimination. And then basically those people have to keep moving further and further out. Maybe they do want to be in Toronto, or maybe they want their child to go to a certain school. Maybe they want their child to be in a certain neighborhood. People have preferences, but they're not able to because of that. And the other interesting thing about it is that historically, like you look at a neighborhood like Parkdale, when the deinstitutionalization happened in CAMH, people were sent to Parkdale. They had rooming houses, they had halfway houses, they had multi-family homes. And then it was Nimbys who came in and said, well, we don't want all these single people with mental health issues in our neighborhood. Like, we have kids, we have families. This should be for more families. So then they gentrified the neighborhood. And it's ironic because the same Nimbys that gentrified neighborhoods and said that we don't want these people in our neighborhood, Now, when developers come in, they scream and they say, this is gentrification. Why are you kicking these people out of the neighborhood? But
They're too rich. We don't want those people. We want the people in the middle. Okay. Not here, not there. Right.
Yeah. So I feel like it's always been there. And the reason they have that power is because they're given that power by the city. The city has these policies in place, has these consultations with no regard for the fact that there's no equitable consultation there. Like, that consultation process is not equitable. It doesn't represent the voices of the neighborhoods. Like, if a person is, like, say, a single mother and they're working 2 jobs, they're not going to have 2 hours to come and sit on a consultation meeting. Like a new immigrant who might be, like, working different shift work or whatever. Like, these are all people that are not included. A lot of young people who are really busy in their life, they're not going to go sit there for 2 hours in these meetings. So the meetings are dominated by homeowners who are predominantly a little bit older. And you can see that in their in-person ones when they used to take pictures of their stuff. It's a bunch of old people sitting there. So I feel like the city has to do a revamp of the consultation process. And Edmonton, which is where I grew up a few years ago, they actually, the University of Edmonton University of Alberta did an entire research project on the city, on the consultation process, interviewed people about how to make it more equitable. How do you get more voices in? Toronto, for example, is now saying, why do we have to have this virtual format? The residents associations are saying, that excludes them. So they're actually saying they want to go back to in-person because they know if they go back to in-person, other people are going to have a harder time coming to them. Because right now in Toronto, there are people that join in on the meetings and do say, I want this development. There are people that actually do come and there's group like
who, okay. I know of one person for sure that does, but they're an anomaly. And I mean, they might be in many other meetings out there,
right,
advocating.
It's hard to imagine someone with no connection to the development itself that would show up to say yes. It's hard for me to picture that.
Well,
so there is that.
Right. Okay.
The group, More Neighbors. So they do have a calendar. And sometimes when you go on the call, there are like 5 of them on there.
They
so this
started
is an organization.
I think that group, I could have used them. They're Yimbys, but they're extreme also. I mean, I follow them and I've been in rooms with them, and they are like literally the extreme opposite of Nimbys. And
that's what we need to fight Nimbys, Daryl.
No, you need them
fight
both.
Fire with fire.
You need them both to understand that they're both the problem, right? Yeah. And this is the biggest problem. This is the solution to the whole thing, is that everybody's a big problem and every angle of this thing is a big problem. And the bigger problem is that, like, nobody is going to tackle this thing because it's too big. And unfortunately, what's probably going to happen is, like, it will crumble to the ground and have to be put back together, because this is way bigger than anybody currently is willing, I think, to even try. Pierre Poilievre, he talks a big game, but, like, we all know how much power the Prime Minister actually has with all this stuff.
What's the process for me and for everybody listening who's not as familiar with the process? There's a project that gets introduced and the application gets submitted, and it's like, well within most of the guidelines. There's some variances. There's a few things that, are maybe typical. It's a typical ask for a developer to bring to the table. And there's a huge opposition from the community. Like, what do the city planners do? Like, eventually the city planners have to ignore what the community is saying because it's for the greater good, right? Or is it eventually they have to agree with the community because the community is saying we don't want this? Like, what level of
in the current system in the current system they have to appease the public. They have to make it seem like they're taking into consideration what they need, right? And so what you have is, like, if all you have is negative pressure, and there's one guy going like this, trying to hold it up while everybody else is in opposition, and then all the education has to keep public opinion as part of their process and decision making, you can't help but to get dragged down, right? So the whole process is, instead of everybody figuring out, like, how do we come to a happy medium where there's actually more affordable housing that people can afford and it happens quickly and people are okay with it. It's just like, yes, no, yes, no. And then people talking about it all day right? That's what we're just stuck in, this entire cycle that has currently no end other than.
Yeah. And I agree with you, Daryl, because like I've always said, I don't identify as being a Yimby. And some of the Yimbys get upset because I say I'm not one, but I'm not one because I also feel like there are extremes on both sides. Like they have to come to some sort of a balance, because if you look at the Yimby movement, and I've called them out on this on Twitter, when Margaret Atwood was, when they were tweeting out at Margaret Atwood, you know what? That's a very influential Canadian. You know what? She's a respectable person. And yes, she probably has done some NIMBY things, but she's not the person to go and attack. I mean, you know what? You're going to go on her Twitter page. She's an old woman. Eventually, she said something like, don't worry, when I die, you can do whatever you want on my piece of land. And I just don't think you're going to get like influence, or you're going to get people to agree with you if you're going to go and attack people. There's been some very respectable people on Twitter, who are very respectable in the community and stuff like that, who, they'll go and they'll attack them endlessly. And it will be like 20 of them just show up on a thread, and the thread will go on for days. Like it doesn't even stop. It's like never ending.
Stops when you get blocked for going too
under
far.
all these
Somebody
anonymous handles. Yeah, all these anonymous handles. People just get to say whatever they want. Yeah.
And predominantly, so my problem is like they're predominantly men going and exerting whatever their views are. Like there's very few, like if you look at that movement, there's very few girls. Like when you even look at their threads, whatever they're talking about. And I remember I even put that out on to like more neighbors, actually. Like I said, that why are a whole bunch of men going and attacking Margaret Atwood? Like, I do think that's a relevant point. They all started getting upset at me for asking them why a whole bunch of men were going on her thread. But I said, I do think it's a relevant topic. Like you can't have a movement of all men talking about housing issues.
Anything.
Anything. It definitely will not end up with any productivity.
No support. There'll be no
Zero
support
success
from the public.
Yeah. So I do feel like they need a balance, because what ends up happening is the Yimbys are fighting with the Nimbys. And then there's also this other group called the Phimbis.
Yeah, you put that in there, and I feel
right. I don't know this one.
The loop. I feel
okay. All right.
With a PH.
Yeah, public housing in my backyard, because that becomes an issue, right? Because
they want public housing.
I doubt it.
Well, they're fighting for public housing. It's almost like public housing in your backyard, right? Like we need more public housing, because even
makes sense. That makes sense that would be a movement. People,
right?
But they want it in their neighborhood, or they want it in your neighborhood.
I don't think these people have a neighborhood. I think
they just want more.
They just want more. More. Well, it's just like a lot of the people that are the yes in my backyard are not necessarily from those neighborhoods, right? But it's almost like there's another movement called yes in your backyard. Yes. I think that one makes more sense. Right? Like yes in your backyard. But what ends up happening is the Yimbys want more market rate housing, and then these Phimbis want more social housing. The Nimbys want no housing. But Daryl's right. They all go around in these circles. And then I think you also have to wonder of like, who's to blame in all of this? So you get into these fights with random people fighting about housing, and they're not holding the government accountable. Like they have to hold the
developers. It's always developers and realtors and investors.
The counselors are really the ones who are supposed to be, refereeing all this stuff, right? It's like the counselors, I think, are not doing their job as far as communicating.
Exactly doing their job. They're going with their constituents, the ones that have a voice, the ones that are the loudest.
Yeah, but
they're afraid of.
They need exactly. So they need to figure out how to get past the political pressure and to be able to understand what's
that was in the housing plan. Or the what's it called plan? The
task force plan.
The task force plan. Get rid of all that shit was basically like a section of it.
The council should have like
voice.
3 vetoes a year, like they should have 3 opportunities a year to use those,
but they're saying no public consultation. It's unnecessary. Like, get rid of it.
Or that, yeah.
And I feel like if the province actually took that away from the city, then the city councillors could just say, oh, it's not my fault, constituents. Like, the province decided that this development is going here or whatever, or there's no like more minimal public consultation. Because, there was that modular housing unit in Willowdale. So 59 units that were created to put in front of kind of like a senior's residence.
What's the councillor's name in that ward there?
That one, Stan Cho. Cho.
No, there was one. I see you constantly attacking one of them.
Steve
for
Clark.
This. Yes,
Steve
that's
Clark.
it. Yes.
I attacked the housing minister for it.
Has he blocked you? Has he blocked you yet?
No.
Wow,
Steve,
I can't believe it.
Because you know what? It's funny.
I can take a licking.
It's funny because provincial government, and I told you I work with the provincial government. Yeah. They don't block. Very few of them. I think in the past I've been blocked one time by somebody, the Secretary of Cabinet, but other than that, they don't block, but the city councillors block because
Matt blocked me. She didn't like what I had to say about her reign in power. Because
their integrity commissioner is different, like the way that their code of ethics works. So in provincial politics, they're more hesitant to block people. In the city, because I talked to the integrity commissioner, because I had 2 of them block me, and I actually went to the integrity commissioner and I filed a report. And I said that, you know what, you need to change this because people should be able to say what they want. I commented about inclusionary zoning. They didn't like what I had to say. Mike Layton and Josh Matlow, they both blocked me.
Yeah.
Right.
As long as it's not abusive, there should be no restrictions on the public communicating, whether it's through Twitter or email or phone. Like, that's exactly what they got into politics for.
And nothing I said was abusive. And I actually met with the integrity and everything. But then I said, I'm not pursuing this because I don't want to get anybody in trouble for this or whatever, but I just want you to change your policy on this.
Yeah,
right?
It's crazy. Mm-hmm. One-way voice. Like, don't go on Twitter or give people a chance to reciprocate.
Yeah. And if you don't agree, just have a conversation. Like, a lot of the other counselors will actually have conversations with people. But yeah, Steve Clark, I went after because his role in the modular housing was supposed to happen. There's 59 modular units that are sitting on a TTC parking lot while people are freezing in the street. But he wouldn't sign the MZO order or whatever. He was supposed to sign that order to allow those to be used. But he's not doing it because Stan Cho wrote a letter. Stan Cho is the counselor, or he's not the counselor. He's the MP, like the member of parliament, like for the Ontario government. So this is like a conflict of interest. So you're going to the housing minister saying, well, we didn't have enough time to actually talk about this and have public consultations. And I went
the whole point of the MZO.
That's the whole point of the MZO. Yeah.
You don't have to go through that. Yeah.
And I went to the public consultation for that one. And people were so ignorant. Like, people were like, oh, you want to have this in Willowdale? I want to see you build something like this in Rosedale. Why does Rosedale not have this? First, go to Rosedale. Like, people just have those kinds of comments about the types of people that are going to be living there. They had protests, but they had so long to consult about that.
Is this the property on Wilmington? That big
Willowdale.
Empty... But it's in Willowdale. What street is it on?
You know what? Cummer, 175 Cummer Street.
Cummer.
And it's actually like just a plot of land that's part of the seniors' residence. So it's like literally next to a seniors' residence. So, I mean, they had concerns that what kind of people are you going to be bringing into this neighborhood? Because it's a senior residence. These are vulnerable people. But the stuff like that does exist, like, in Toronto, like in the core and stuff like that, like not modular housing units, but you do have a mixture of, different people of course, living in a neighborhood. But you're never going to address like, unhoused people and like, low income housing and stuff like that if you're always going to say we don't want it in our neighborhood.
My gym, right? One of the gyms that I go to in North York on McNichol, next door, the industrial building was sold. Maybe not sold, maybe leased. I didn't look into it, to the city of Toronto, and it's going to become a homeless shelter. and it looks beautiful. The way that they're revamping this building is absolutely gorgeous. And I told the owner, I said, like, this is not going to be like, Regent Park homeless people. Like, this is going to be like a shelter for people who need help. And it's going to be very organized. And you're barely going to notice that anybody going in and out there is having struggles in their life. He's like, no, that's it. And he's moving his gym because it was right across the street. And he felt that just hearing the word that it was going to be a shelter would be people's cars are going to get broken into and all sorts of stuff. And there's a huge misconception on basically everything that's not what you're used to.
Oh, for sure. Like Lee's side, they did just a prank where this shelter put up a sign saying we're going to be building a shelter here. And they started getting all these phone calls and people were like, why are you bringing that to our neighborhood? Our property values are going to go down. This is going to happen. That's going to happen. And they basically showed this whole video to show like what impact that actually has on people. They weren't going to like actually build the shelter, but it was just to show, the impact.
Social experiment.
Yeah. Like I worked in a Victorian mansion years ago in Summer Hill. And it was like in the middle of a very rich neighborhood. And we had a program for women coming out of jail that had addiction issues. And that would not be okay today. Like no one in Summer Hill is going to say, yeah, you can buy that house and make it into an addictions program for women coming out of prison. But somehow that happened. The woman that bought that property, it was like probably 1982 or something. Like it was a long time ago and it still exists. But the neighbors,
that's the neighborhood to actually do it in, right? Because these are the neighborhoods that, people coming out of, troubling times need to be put into to be able to have the best chance of success. There was an Indigenous women's shelter or facility, maybe housing unit on Kingston Road near Midland, something like that. And again, same thing, all the neighbors and everybody else, they're passing around like pamphlets and advertisements and all this kind of stuff as if like, what's his name? Like a mass murderer or something like that is moving into the neighborhood. Right. And everybody should know, right? Like, it's sad to see how people really view the disenfortunate, right? And it's unfortunate because they're like, no, they're having a tough time. We'll go stick them with all the other people having the tough time. Well, that's exactly what's going to lead them to having more tough times. Like there's no other way around this other than to be able to sort of integrate people. And unfortunately, that's that should be another thing that should be not community oriented. Right.
Yeah. So like with that particular program was interesting because the neighbors were all really nice. Like they probably weren't nice when the place was built or whatever, but when it actually got into the community, like those neighbors would come over with like donations, all kinds of presents for the women. Like they would do that kind of stuff and no one would ever have known because like it was an abstinence-based program. Like people weren't allowed to use any kind of substances in that program. But once they were done with our program, they would have to go back like downtown to like the worst parts of downtown. And then they would start using again, right? They wouldn't have that opportunity because they would just go back to their place wherever they started using, but that's where their permanent housing would be, right? Or whatever long-term housing that they would have over there. Yeah, no, that's
so. I mean, you have areas of downtown that are, not the nicest areas to walk through when it's dark, right? Known for having drugs all over the place, some pretty sketchy people. Is this like policy driven stuff? I mean, a lot of these areas now are getting, reborn, but like, are all of these, like, did downtown go to hell because of housing policy, and did it get reborn because of policy, or like what the hell's going on? And I mean, we see the trajectory of pricing. None of this stuff seems to affect pricing, right?
No. And that's the thing. Like sometimes like, people will say like, should I buy in this area? Like, should I buy in Moss Park? Cause it's so terrible. And it might be like lower on the list of where you should buy, right? But the prices still go up. It's still desirable to people. People still, even in Regent Park, right? Like some people that are living in the penthouses there have spent like a lot of money on their properties and are still buying, and the prices are really great in those areas.
So where's the incentive? Okay. This is the problem. I think I know what incentivizes me as a developer, right? I know what incentivizes a realtor as a real estate agent, right? I know what incentivizes employees. what incentivizes the government to make any changes? Like, are they suffering financially? Are their homes under, like, do you see what where is the incentive for them to
Re-election
actually,
is always
no,
the incentive.
but re-election is constantly the loud minority pushing some agenda, because you think these guys are looking for ways to bring revenue into their wards. And I mean, add 400 people paying land transfer tax, land taxes, and more jobs. And like, this is I imagine if a ward councillor was really thinking about the economics of their ward, the more development, the better, right?
It is for them, like it is better, but I think that if they, like in Toronto, they have like unlimited terms. Like some of those councillors have been there for a long time. It's not like, you have this many terms and you can leave. So they just keep wanting to get elected. That's what I think it comes down to. And I think that's why the province has to take it away. And the province has to make those strict rules. And I know one of their rules is going to be like, if that task force plan gets implemented, that if building is 30% affordable, there's no appeals. And then also like increasing the price on appeals, right? Like it's not $400, it's $10,000. Although I think like some of these resident associations would still pay the $10,000. Like
they
who
go
cares?
in their pocket for the 10 grand, nothing.
Yeah.
The
so
one
I think
leading the charge will pay anything.
It's something to think about, right? If you increase it that much, right? It's
yeah,
not just
definitely
be
will
like,
think about it now.
It'll save taxpayer money overall, because any of those appeal hearings, I'm sure, and developers money too. What's an extra 6 months cost you, Daryl?
It's insane. It depends. Right? Look, on a small deal, it's $500,000.
Yeah. Right. So just to not just have to go through some BS appeal, I think would be beneficial as well.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I do think
it's so crazy.
I do think like the public consultation process, like I do think it's democratic. Like I do think that people have a right to, like, you know what I mean? Like have that discussion. My problem with it really is like, do you have to keep having meetings and discussing things? Like how many times do you actually have to consult on an issue? Like there's some development. There was some development they were talking about in Mississauga that's on the lake that's had 16 years of back and forth consultations. I'm not sure what that area, like that development is, but they don't want it to look like Humber Shores. Like the residents there don't want it to become another Humber Shores. But when I read that was going on for 16 years, like no shovels in the ground, and it's been 16 years, that's a problem, right?
Yeah,
it's
like
a big problem.
Big waste of resources. What do you think about like cancel culture right now? Like you've got the experience, you've been following this type of community involvement for a long time. Has anything changed over the last 5 years now that the whole cancel culture and social justice warrior type of motif is out there? Like, is there a difference now, or is this just the exact same thing and I'm just noticing it now for the first time?
You know what? I don't like this cancel culture. It really bothers me.
Okay.
Like, I don't know if you're for cancel culture or not.
No, I don't think anybody's really for cancel culture. I think they just want to cancel certain people at certain times. Yeah. But overall, the movement, I don't think anybody could say it's healthy.
I don't think it changes anything. I think that it shuts down conversations. Like I've done a lot of anti-racism training throughout my career. And I've seen it in Alberta and I've seen it in Ontario. And in Alberta, when you have anti-racism training, people say what they want. And you want them to say what they want because that's where you want to have the discussion. You don't want people sitting in a room of silence, scared, oh my God, if I say something, I could get fired, or if I say something wrong. You do it in Ontario, it is a room of silence where sometimes you have to fight with people just to get them to talk. I loved the conversations I had in Western Canada when we did like anti-racism training and stuff like that. Like I remember one time I came and I wore a niqab. So I covered everything but my eyes. And I just walked in the room and I just said, what do you guys think of me? Like, I'm going to have my friend, my class, write it on the board, all the thoughts that come to your mind. But I want you to be 100% honest. And people said the craziest things and the rudest things. And I said, I want you to say the first thing that comes to your mind. When you see a woman wearing this in public, just say whatever comes to your mind. If I did that in Ontario, they would all be silent because they don't want to be polite. Oh, can't say nothing. It's going to hurt her feelings, or, I don't want to really say how I feel. So I don't agree with cancel culture. I don't think it changes conversations. Like for me, like if a person, like say a person does like start having like racist things that they're saying or whatever, that's like more of the person I'd want to focus on to have a conversation with, not to say, what, so-and-so, I think you should just be canceled now. You said that thing wrong or whatever. So I don't think it changes anything. I think it's actually scaring people. And you're right. Only certain people get canceled. Other people don't get canceled. And who started this culture actually? Like, I don't even know, where did it come from? Like
Californians.
Twitter.
Must have been. Everything always starts in California, and then they test it and then they release it to the world.
That would make Twitter is from California.
See?
And Twitter causes some serious discussions. That's for damn sure.
But you see, Twitter, I find Twitter interesting because Twitter, it's like you say anything on Twitter, these people come after you. Like the other day, I posted something about inflation and how inflation affects like low income Canadians. And I tweeted out to Justin Trudeau, Pierre Poilievre, I can never say his name right, Patrick Brown, Jean Charest, and I don't know who the other person is running for the Conservatives.
Doesn't matter. Yeah.
But anyways, a bunch of people from the Conservative Party as well. I had multiple people start coming after me on Twitter saying, why are you talking to the Conservatives? How do they know what my beliefs are? Like, just because I talk about social justice doesn't mean that I'm liberal, right? It doesn't mean that I agree with liberals, right? I could be from any political party.
I can't even believe that we have like these political parties that have names that people are like affiliated with and feel allegiance to, that it's like,
it's the most
gray. I agree with all of this stuff. Maybe I should call myself this for a little while now. It's like people have gone absolutely bananas. This whole planet is absolutely bananas. So, okay, we see all the problems. They're evident. Right. Are there solutions that are actually possible in the near term that can have an effect instantly for the better of this like market economy planet? Like there's got to be stuff.
I read something that was in the news that is about on Monday, they're having a meeting to increase the mortgage amount for people from like 1 million to 1.25 million. Like this is part of Trudeau's
I thought that was getting squashed. I thought that was getting squashed. That's a deadly move, right?
They're having a meeting apparently, I guess, with the government on this on Monday, like the mortgage.
CMHC can collect more premiums like that.
But it will push up. It will push up prices, right? Like that's one of the things.
It'll leverage people more, right? So it'll give people access to more money, right?
It'll just allow people that need a little bump to actually buy something the ability to do it, but it pushes up pushes up the average price because now people can pay more.
Let's talk about all the federal policies that they've introduced over the last few years. Like the first time home buyer program, none of them have worked so far, right? Like none of them have actually been able to be implemented so far. Never mind worked to cool or heat up the market, whatever their plan was. None of them they don't even get used, right? And they spend how many millions of dollars on the studies and how many millions of dollars on the meetings and how many millions of dollars on the marketing of it, and then it just doesn't get used. So I think they'll probably create some sort of guidelines that again will make this almost useless. To be honest with you, because there's very few people who would qualify for that. Think about to qualify for an insured mortgage. So already at 20% down, $1 million purchase price, right? So now that's the baseline for that. Or say $999,000, you got to do 5% on the first 500, 10% on the next. So let's say you've got a $900,000 mortgage, give or take. You're talking about like $170,000-$180,000 income without any debt whatsoever to qualify. So this is not a huge chunk of the population. So that requirement, that income requirement will actually be even greater if you go over $1 million at a high ratio mortgage. So now it's like, okay, if you got $200K income and you got no down payment, then you get to get this mortgage. Like, who does that really help? right?
Yeah, I actually read a stat the other day and I was surprised because I thought people in Toronto made more money, but only like less than 5% of Toronto's population actually makes over 100,000.
For sure.
So I don't even know who's going to be able to buy all the properties now, like in the future.
The people yeah, the sellers that I deal with, none of them qualify for the houses that they're selling.
Right.
None of them, like zero,
Like
right?
they wouldn't
Because
be
they've
able
been in
to
there
buy,
forever.
they wouldn't be able to buy that house, right? Like that's
Not a
the thing.
chance.
So I don't know how people are going to afford it, but I do think the government has to do something. I don't think that they're going to do much because I look back and sometimes I read like old articles from like even the 70s and 80s. And they were talking about like housing crisis issues even back then, like
Yeah, I
even
was going to
40,
say, yeah.
50 years ago. So they're
Or just
talking
even go back, look at New York 30, 40 years ago, 50 years ago. They must have been having these conversations. Like, who's going to buy all this crap? We're at like $300 a foot right now, right?
The ratios, they've been talking about the ratios for forever. As long as the ratios have been calculated, the ratios didn't make sense, right?
Somebody's going to figure out a way that we can all afford more shit for less money. They always do, right? As cars got more expensive, they figured it, like they're going to figure out a way for us to somehow fractionally own stuff and who knows what. But like there has to be a chopping process again, which might actually be adding, 4 units onto a single family property, right?
Yeah, we love the expanding housing options in neighborhoods. I think that's. I hope this is not a useless policy that nobody uses because it's got the potential to be. But I hope that it actually comes to fruition the way that we want it to.
I just see it affecting the purchase price considerably when all of a sudden you can look at it as 4 doors instead of 1 door, at least for some part of the population. And so some people are going to look at it like, if I turn it into 4, then the cap rate is this, and this thing is worth 3.2 million.
Development charges, though. There's a lot of things there.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It happens already. It's going to happen when they open the floodgates and say everything out there that was 1 can be 4. Trust me, there's a lot of people that are going to sit there and figure out a way to make money off of that. And that will 100% push up prices in neighborhoods, because if you're looking at it as a $2.2 million investment and the end user is looking at it as 1 unit worth 1.7 million, like how can you compete? That the investor now can probably get it for 1.8 million overpay, right? And it's worth 2.2 instantly, right? The way he's looking at it. So there's no way it can't push up pricing, this policy. It will 100%. At least initially, it's going to give it a bump like crazy as all those investors come in to push up the pricing. I think. I mean, I don't know how else that works.
But those properties are quite expensive, like in terms of development fees. Like I was told that they have some of the highest development fees. So I wonder if the city would ever decrease the development fees for people.
Maybe, but look, the
Probably
people,
not, right?
The investors that are ruining the market right now, like they're not even looking at houses like that, and they're not they're not cash flowing unless they've paid cash for them, right? So the mentality of it needing to cash flow isn't in the equation. It hasn't been, right?
Yeah.
So it will have an effect that I don't think a lot of people are thinking about, but it's good. It creates more housing, but it will have those consequences to the price. It's going to be a real hard trap to get out of price, I think, unless the market just completely tanks. So where are we right now? Even from your point of view, are we in a good market? Are we in a weaker market? Where do you think we're at right now?
I don't know, because every day people are changing their minds, right? Like some people think that the market is cooling. Other people are very adamant that it's not cooling. I don't know, because I noticed that my neighbor tried to sell her place. And the other 2 that sold their places before, because I live in a condo townhouse, they sold it very quickly in January and February. It was like, it was so hot, it was gone, like whatever, like in 2 days, both of them. And then she tried to sell hers and she couldn't sell it. She wanted a bidding war. So she put it on a little bit lower, and then she relisted it at the price she wanted. And then she relisted it again at the lower price, but she ended up getting more than the other guy that sold in the hot. You know what I mean? It's very bizarre. So I feel like people are still buying, but maybe they like the person is still getting like a good price. It's not like they're getting like a bad price. It's not like I don't see anything going on with the prices.
Yeah, that's exactly how I'm seeing it right now. That story of your neighbor is indicative of like the market itself. It's just timing, which buyer's coming in, how many showings are you going to get? You know, what was the strategy? How did the agent position it? All those type of things. But in the end, sellers aren't accepting less money than what their neighbors got. And they either get the same, close to, or even a little bit more depending on the circumstance.
Yeah. Like she got a little bit more and she didn't even have like the other guy had like hardwood floors throughout and all that kind of stuff. And she had like carpet still on two of the floors. So I was kind of surprised that she even got more than the last guy anyways. Cause you know, her townhouse isn't as nice looking, but she still got a good price. She just had to wait longer. Like I think she sold it and it took her maybe like, I would say 3 weeks. And it took the other people like, you know, a few days, but is 3 weeks even bad?
No, not for normal places.
With that circumstance. Yeah. No, not when you're doing an offer date. That's already a week off the table. And then you've got some negotiations and different things for a couple of weeks. That's no big deal.
Yeah.
So what do you think? What do you think then? Do you think that the Toronto market right now is poised for, you know, a correction, or do you feel like it's one of those markets that, you know, are going to just maintain that steady course of increases? And, you know, we live in the greatest city in the world.
Yeah, I think Toronto is the center of the universe personally. Like I really do feel that way. I mean, I love Toronto and I think Toronto actually, like I remember when the pandemic started, there were homes that would like, this was when everybody was bidding up in Durham and all these other places. Like there were some homes that would sit for like a few months and not even sell because people, I guess, weren't as interested in these homes in Toronto and these particular up and coming areas. So I think like Toronto, if you look at the increases, even they haven't increased in terms of a percentage as much as those other areas have, although Toronto was more expensive to begin with. But I think that if any correction happens, it would happen in some far off areas like I've seen some posts of people on Reddit and stuff, and they're coming and they're posting and they're actually worried because they're like, you know, they live in some area that's hours away from Toronto, and they're actually saying they're worried about the future. Like, are they even going to get the price that it is today? Because if a correction happens, and they're wondering if they should sell their place and now move to Toronto. So, but I don't know. I mean, I think the market is crazy. Like I personally was looking to buy something recently, and I was like, I'm not even going to buy in this market. I'm not.
It is a tough market to stomach. I think that investors, that's why they're out right now. And if you're looking to live in a house, then what are you worried about? Like, you know, buy the house, buy the condo, get into the market. You're going to be there for a while. Like we know that the houses and the value of Toronto real estate is going to continue to be there, whether it changes course a little bit here and there. Like we're not going to lose values in Toronto all of a sudden. Like it doesn't stand a chance to happen. And if you need a place to live, why are you paying rent?
And I just personally, I just don't like bidding. Like I don't like bidding wars. I know that they're okay to participate in, and I did participate in one when I got my place, but when I bought before, I never, you know, went into a bidding war, and it was way more comfortable. And then I kind of regret not buying in the summertime, because in the summertime in Toronto for condos, it wasn't, you know, that bad with the bidding.
Canadian real estate prices expected to drop 24%, can crash 40%. So, and then we see on Twitter, people are quick to go, yeah, but if it crashes 24%, who cares? That was 3 months ago.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I just feel like we have too much demand for it to crash a significant amount. You know, I do think that we have a lot of demand in Canada, and look at people are now bidding up in Alberta. Like they're bidding up in Edmonton, they're bidding up in Calgary. Like their prices are going up now. Like, and then you're bringing in immigrants, right? People need a place to live, and we don't have, like, you know, we don't have the tradespeople to really build as much housing as we need. You know, Canada, part of Trudeau's plan is to build 1.4 million homes across Canada. Like, who's going to build all those homes? So I just don't know how much how low
I'll try.
could it go? Like, I don't know. I think people are still buying like crazy.
Just
I mean,
give me like 100 acres and no rules and regulations, and I will build so many houses your head would spin.
well, I'm sure. I mean, when you look at the whatever the policies that are in place and all the delays and all the back and forth, it's mind-boggling. Like, I don't even know how people deal with it. Like, I don't even know how developers could deal with that kind of a system.
It's crazy. But it really, I mean, you want to fix it. It's like, okay, here, all resources into housing, go. Like, here, you see that big empty plot of land right there in Saskatchewan? Let's build like 1 million homes right now. Right? Oh, see that thing over there in Winnipeg? Boom, 1 million houses right there. Everybody go. Free land, go. We're going to give subsidies on lumber. We're going to give subsidies on steel. We're going to give, like, just get this shit built already. It could be done.
Well, yeah, if they just said, look, these are the rules and you know, you have to follow these rules, and then just let people build and also let people have autonomy over their land. Like, if a person has a home and they want to sever it and they want to make 2 homes and they have a big enough lot to do it, I don't see why a person shouldn't be allowed to do something like that. Like, why does that have to be such an uphill battle? As long as they meet the rules, you know, it doesn't look ridiculous, whatever. But even that can be a huge dilemma, like impossible, where people don't even want to try to do it and the costs are so high, right?
Listen, eventually you get those 2 houses at Leslie and Lawrence that were, you know, those blue and purple stucco weird square and circle.
Oh,
yeah. Eventually somebody figures out how to build those with all the regulations. But you know what the best regulation is? Hey, guess what? If your product sucks, nobody's going to pay for it, because there's all of this competition out there for what you're actually producing. So either produce something people want, or yours will just sit there and you will be out of business pretty quickly, right? Build something people want and they will buy it.
Yeah.
It's simple.
I was at a place this weekend, and you know, poor guy's got some, you know, struggling situations in his life and everything else too. And he's been trying to build this house since 2008. And I mean that he's been trying to build this house since 2008, and he's living in it, and it's just a disaster. It's just a disaster. Like, it's just, it needs to be torn down. Like, that's where it's at right now, you know? So there is, unfortunately, like you said, at Leslie and Lawrence, there's always going to be somebody who has got more dreams than skills, right? And they've got more money than connections. And unfortunately, this stuff gets built. So I do understand. I'm not a NIMBY, but I also believe in like regulation. I also believe that the city should have conformity, that we should have, you know, something that people from 100 years from now will look back and say, wow, because there's a ton of stuff that we look at that was done 100 years ago, or maybe even 50 years ago, especially in the 70s. The 70s, I think, was horrible. Yeah. But there's a ton of stuff that I look at and like, who is allowed to build this garbage, right? And I'm sure that these are all the lessons that. But
then what happens is they go on a heritage register. Right? Yeah, because it was the 70s. So it automatically goes on. Everything is crazy and nothing has an effect on price other than whether people will buy or not. Look, the number one rule in real estate is how much is it worth? Right? Whatever somebody's willing to pay, not what all of us think, right? Mm-hmm. You need multiple parties involved in the decision and in agreement, which is not very easy, actually, especially with these kind of numbers. I see TK's looking at the clock, which means I should look at the clock, which means we are out of time. I looked at the clock
a few minutes ago. I know we're good. But Shaista, this has been amazing. You are like a wealth of knowledge. By far our favorite listener / commenter. And, you know, we appreciate you coming on today. You know, it's amazing. And I think we could chat for you for another hour, and hopefully we could do this again in the future. And maybe we'll have a hot topic one day that we could get into that we think you'll be well-versed in, and we'll get you back on for sure.
I'm seeing a spin-off show here, Urban Zen Justice Queen. You need a show.
Yeah. What about your own? Yeah. What about your own, you know, content? Or are you just happy to be, you know, supportive of all the other producers?
I'm supportive of other people, but I wouldn't do it I used to back in the day want to get into something, but not anymore, just because of what I do for a living. I don't like, I'm not that
Publicity.
out there is what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah. You need to
So,
have some level of anonymity out there to be able to just ensure that you're providing the information unbiasedly.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for being a part of our family. It was great to meet you.
Thank you.
I hope we can consider you a friend. We'd love to have you on again. And thank
follow
you for all of your
her on
support.
Twitter.
Yeah, Twitter.
Justice Queen. If you're on Twitter and you're not following Justice Queen, you're missing out.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, everybody. Great Sunday. Happy day. Thanks for watching.